Most people drive down Judson Street without asking the one question that matters. Who was Judson? And why did this town decide his name belonged on a sign? Because in the early American towns, streets, they weren't not named randomly. They were named after landowners, founding families, power brokers, men who held influence in the development of the town. And Canton, in the early 1800s, was growing fast. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Street Sign Storytime. I've been all over this beautiful county of ours, and there's one road that I lived near for a while, and I always wondered about. That's Judson Street in Canton, New York. You've heard of it. Well, if you haven't, then you haven't been in Canton that long or driven through. Anyways, there's a lot of things that happen on there, and I was like, you know what? Let's deep dive, and let's do this week's episode of Street Sign Storytime on Judson Street. So without further ado, here we go. Let's first start off with the rise of Canton. Canton, it was established in 1806, right as northern New York was transitioning from frontier land into organized settlement. By the 1820s and 1830s, it started to emerge as a legal center, a farming hub, and a county government seat. The St. Lawrence County Courthouse, which is still standing today, cemented Canton as a place where decisions mattered. Lawmakers, judges, and civic leaders shaped the identity of the region from right here. And by 1856, St. Lawrence University was founded, bringing education, abolitionist debate, and progressive religious thought into the town's bloodstream. See, it's more than just, sports and cookies and everything else, right? And well, that matters because the Judson name appears in early land records and family histories in St. Lawrence County, connected to farming, property ownership, and civic life during that expansion era. In small 19th century towns, if your name went on a street, you were established. You owned land. You had influence. You were woven into the town's physical layout. Judson Street likely began as part of a subdivided farmland as Canton expanded outward from its original core, which means this street is part of the literal footprint of Canton's early growth. Now here's where it starts to get a little interesting. Canton is just miles from the St. Lawrence River, and in the mid-1800s, the river wasn't just geography, it was freedom. After the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, even northern states became unsafe for escaped, enslaved individuals. Canada became the final destination. St. Lawrence County, including Canton, was part of that broader abolitionist network that moved people north. Churches in the region openly supported anti-slavery causes. Debate societies at St. Lawrence University addressed slavery. Northern New York communities were deeply divided, some pro-union, some conservative, and some fiercely abolitionists. While no verified documentation pins a specific Underground Railroad stop directly on Judson Street itself, the town it sits in absolutely participated in that wider movement. So picture this. Farmland stretched along what would become Judson Street. Natural and national arguments over slavery, Civil War recruitment, and cross-border movement toward Canada. They were shaping in the air this street existed in. This wasn't sleepy isolation. This was a town that was plugged into national tension. But let's zoom out for just a quick little second, because when you see Judson Street, it sounds small, right? But it was born in a county that helped defend against British incursions in 1812. A border region tied to trade and smuggling. A university town engaged in national moral debates. A farming economy fueling northern industry. That's not small. That's foundational America. Historical census and property records show the Judson surname in northern New York during the 19th century, tied to land ownership and agriculture. In that era, when towns expanded, landowners subdivided property. Roads, they were cut through farmland. Streets were named after families who owned or donated that land. That's how identity became infrastructure. Judson Street is likely the result of exactly that pattern, which means that sign, it represents a family that helped build early Canton, the agricultural backbone of the county, the quiet transition from wilderness to organized township. It's not dramatic like a battle. It's more powerful than that. It's structural. And honestly, when you think about the people who worked this land in the 1800s, farming northern New York, the winters. You realize hydration wasn't exactly optimized, right? Thankfully, we live in a time where you can hydrate smarter. If you're running around town coaching, recording, or just digging into history like this, go grab yourself some squatch juice. No fluff, just clean hydration that keeps you sharp. Squatchjuice.com/beardlaws. Now let's go back to the street. Because today, Judson Street is residential, quiet, unassuming. But in the 1800s, that was expansion land. Canton's population grew steadily through the 19th century. Farms fed the region. Trade moved through Ogdensburg. And the river connected everything. And by the Civil War era, St. Lawrence County had sent thousands of men into Union service. That means young men who may have grown up on or near roads like Judson Street marched south into the war. The street you drive today may sit on land once plowed by families who sent sons to, well, Gettysburg, the wilderness, who knows where, and that's real. And if we're being honest, if you're going to walk through history with confidence, you might as well look like you belong in it, right? Live Bearded makes products built for men who carry themselves with intention. If you're rocking a beard, use code BEARDLAWS and treat it like it deserves, because presence matters then and now. Live Bearded. Judson Street doesn't scream, doesn't boast, doesn't announce its story, but it sits inside a border county shaped by war, a town shaped by education, a region shaped by agriculture, a century shaped by moral tension. Sometimes the most powerful street signs are the quiet ones, because they aren't named after celebrities. They're named after builders, landowners, farmers, civic men whose influence became pavement. So next time you pass Judson Street in Canton, don't just see a name, see farmland before becoming a town. See debate halls arguing over slavery. See young men leaving for war. See a border region shaping America quietly, because every street sign is a chapter. And some chapters, they whisper. That's all we got. We'll be back next week. Take care, everybody.